to Tuesday,
No
June
coffee.
4th. Well, I've got my coffee in my Braves cup right here. And we got a lot to cover today. That was a wild show yesterday, man. Hey, hit the subscribe button at the bottom of the right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. Rob Browne here with Brenden Martin. We've got Chris Lee, Southeastern 14, joining us here, batting in the leadoff position for the first half of the show. And hopefully Yancey will be able to join us, Porter, that is. And I know Rodney Orr will be on in the second half hour. So, look, get pen and paper handy. Tell your friends, family, and neighbors. Sync us from any device, anywhere you are. Listen live or at your leisure, because here we come. Get pen and paper handy.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, guys, a lot to talk about today. Chris Lee, lead off with us. And Chris, we had a lively show yesterday with Mitch Davis and Franz Beard and Ben Troop and Brenden and I talking a lot about SEC baseball and just really, it was interesting. It was interesting to hear, Mitch, it's frustrating. Vanderbilt, you cover Vanderbilt closely along with the rest of the SEC, but them losing like they did in the regional, they went 0-2. That's a shock, but Tim Corbin's not going anywhere. I mean, he's going to be back. He's the best thing Vanderbilt has. We all know that. But what do you think is going to happen?
I think he'll be back. Now, look, every season, some blue blood somewhere tries to make a run at him. And so we'll see when the coaching carousel hits, if what happens. What Tim Corbin has always done is he's always come back to Vanderbilt. He's used whatever offer he's got elsewhere as negotiation to make his own situation better. But I will say there's been a lot of talk about, and I know there's something to this, the Nick Saban, Jay Wright, Gary Gilmore, the latest to do it at Coastal Carolina walk-off, because, hey, I'm just sick of the way the game is. There are no guardrails. There are no standards. And it goes from, NIL and roster tampering. They've had kids playing in regionals and other teams in the league calling their kids the night before they got a game and stuff like that. You've got, I think, widespread equipment tampering. You've got an NCAA that refuses to do anything about its bats and balls problem or whatever that is. You've got other stuff going on. It just seems like there are no guardrails for college baseball, and it enables the worst of the actors to do as they please. I'm not throwing a finger at anybody in particular, but here's my point. You've seen coaches get sick of that and just say, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I think, there's been noise in the air about that with him for a year or two now. So that's another thing to watch.
Yeah, and the interest in baseball is growing every year. But when we had Jackie Sherrill on the show Friday, he talked about probably 85% of the TV money from all college sports comes from college football. Then a certain percentage from basketball and maybe 2% from baseball. But that number's growing. It is, but I worry about the same reason that you just said. Coaches that have left college football as head coaches that have gone to other programs to be coordinators. Not that they're, working for, $8 an hour in tips. they're getting paid really well as coordinators. If Tim Corbin leaves, who would be next? That we don't want that to happen. I mean, or any of these coaches. And you look at these up and coming coaches, who would, I don't know. He's built such a unique culture at Vanderbilt. You don't want anything to happen to him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the next guy. I mean, I'm not sure. I think the next ask would be Eric Bakich at Clemson, who's been at Vanderbilt before as a hitting coach, coached under Corbin, is now at Clemson. Faced off against Tim Corbin in the 2019 NCAA final. His wife is from Shelbyville, which is not far from here. I think that would be the ask. I think that's what everybody expects. Could be Josh Holliday at Oklahoma State, although there's history there. Holliday played at Oklahoma State. His dad coached there. He's got a son on the team now, I think, or a relative. So I think those would be the targets. I think Bakich will be the guy. Now, I think the question would be who would control the search. Their athletic directors had some weird ideas about things at times. I think she would probably get overruled. I think there'd be a mutiny if they didn't take that coaching search seriously.
That's if it happens.
Yeah, I don't think it will. But
I don't either.
We're outlining all the
not.
possibilities. That one's somewhere in the university, and if it's small.
Yeah. Well, you look at the money in all these schools. In baseball, we've got 5 schools trying to get to the in the super regional, don't we? And we've got Florida going to play at Clemson. You've got Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas A&M, and Georgia. So we still got 5 of the 11. Were you shocked that 6 of the 11 went out after the first weekend?
I would have put the over-under maybe a team or two higher, but I mean, I'm not shocked. I felt like the league was as strong as it's ever been, but you're seeing some strange stuff. I mean, look at all the 3 seeds that advance. And by the way, no 2 seeds advance. That's weird. We have no seeds in the regional finals. We got a bunch of 3s and a bunch of 1s and a 4. But I mean, I'm in some of it. I'm like, I didn't think LSU and Mississippi State. I thought they deserved better matchups than they got. Yeah. I thought both those had a shot. Both of them took it to a regional final. LSU took one to extra innings on Monday night.
Yeah.
So they were that close. The Arkansas one was the one that surprised me.
Yeah.
And if you'd said Arkansas is really going to hit the ball for the most part, but the pitching is going to let it down, that would have not been on my radar of things. Although Arkansas had some. If you were paying attention, there were some pitching concerns late with that team. Will McIntyre just has not thrown well for about a month. I think he got hit in that thing. Brady Tigert didn't throw at all. They held him out. Mason Molina has not been great lately. That's 2/3 of their starting rotation. And the guy that had been untouchable, and I watched it, it was kind of a flukish thing, was their ace Hagen Smith. And look, they lost a game in which Hagen Smith threw, in which they out-hit Kansas State 13-5.
Yeah.
But I watched it, and sometimes it's when you get those 5, and they had a ball like an infield chopper that hit out in front of home plate, got over second. That scored 2 runs. They had a 3-run home run, same inning. It just all happened at once. And I think sometimes when you are, I mean, Arkansas was number 1 team part of the year.
Yeah.
And surely not expecting to get run out of its own regional by Southeast Missouri State on a Sunday morning. I think sometimes, and I feel like they weren't the only team. Sometimes when you get ambushed in an unexpected scenario in a regional, and you got to turn around and play less than 24 hours later, you've seen some teams that don't react to that very well, and I think that was one of them.
Yeah. Well, Arkansas in the last 5 years has won more baseball games than anybody in D1. I believe that's
more
the
than
fact.
Tennessee?
I think in the last 5 years, is either the last 5 or the last 7.
Okay.
I think, and that's I agree with you. You're like, wow. And when they dropped that pop fly, the foul ball in 2018, it's like I don't know. It's something. Maybe they're looking over their shoulder and they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I don't know. They've got everything that you want in a baseball program. plus incredible fan support. They lack for nothing. And Dave Van Dorn's been there for 20 plus years. You're going, well, you don't replace this guy. What do you want to have, a consistent program every year? But you want to win that World Series, and they've been to Omaha a number of times. It's baseball used to be a West Coast game. The college game was, and now it's a Southeastern game. But Southeast Missouri, High Point, Coastal Carolina, you saw some crazy stuff happening. Yeah. Now what those guys got to worry about is getting rated in the portal. But we've got 3 years, or the portal's been around since October 15th of 2018. So they've been there and done that. What was different this year, or is this more of the same?
Look, I think if you went back and you took Dave Van Horn's career and you stopped it at the end of the regular season and said, let's play every postseason over again. It's kind of like the 1990s Atlanta Braves. Like if you went back and did that thing over when they had Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz, I think they would have won more than the one title they got in 95. I think Arkansas, the zero, I don't know. I think the number would be greater than 0. You catch a pop fly against Oregon State, something happens that goes differently. I mean, baseball's a game of weird stuff. I was out in Omaha in 2015 watching Vanderbilt and Virginia, and Vanderbilt had beaten Virginia the year before. Virginia had a clearly better team, but Vanderbilt beat them. The next year, Virginia gets in the thing, I think as a 3, wasn't nearly as good. It lost all its, well, not all, but a lot of its dudes from the year before.
Yeah.
And if there's a grounder down first base and Xander Wheel's ready to field it, it hits the bag, it skips over his head into right field, 2-run score. You make that ball go 6 inches to the left, it's out 3, and Vanderbilt wins the College World Series. You see stuff like that in baseball all the time. You could hit a ball a certain exit velocity, a certain launch angle, whatever, and crush it, with 3 guys on base. And if there's a gust of wind that blows it out, a little bit, it gets 2 feet over the fences. That's a grand slam. The same gust of wind blows the other way, it's called at the warning track. That's just kind of how it goes. And that's a lot of words to say. I think if you had to do this over again with Dave Van Horn, I think it looks differently. I think they will get one somewhere. But it is harder to be consistent the way he's been consistent than it is to catch a break and win one somewhere, I think.
Yeah. All right. Of these 5 schools in the super regionals, Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas A&M, Florida, and Georgia. You got a favorite to get to Omaha? Now there's going to be some canceling each other out.
Yeah. Well, in terms of just winning the super, Tennessee's got to have the best odds by a considerable margin. They drew in Evansville. That's a 4. Now, the interesting thing about Evansville, they hit a lot of bombs. I think they are second, at least as at the end of the game yesterday, they were second in the country in terms of regional home runs behind Tennessee. Now, they also played more games than Tennessee did too. But, all that to say, if something crazy happens, there's your formula. Couple balls get out at the wrong time. I think on the right side, and here's the thing. I think Tennessee, if the seeds went out, is going to be in a much tougher bracket in Omaha than the right side, where you could see 4 SEC teams. I like A&M. I think A&M is, in my mind, that's my pick before the tournament. I'm going to stick with them.
A&M.
I'd like to see them play better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that they've got really top-end pitching arms that have just been shut down guys. And they got about 3 of them, and they've got some other guys that can get the job done too. Not that Tennessee's bad in pitching by any stretch. I think they were 3rd in the country in ERA, but I just line them up and say, like, who would you like to have on your staff? And I think I'd take 3 guys on A&M staff before I'd take anybody on Tennessee's. Now, that might be close.
Wow.
I'd be thinking about Drew Beam and Nate Snead and some other guys like that. But, they've got between Prager and Shane Sadeo and Evan Oschenbeck, who, Sadeo and Oschenbeck are guys that can come out of the pen Sadeo can start. They can give you multiple good innings. I think it is invaluable in a regional to have a guy who can come in and give you 3 or 4 innings, the way Mississippi State had it a couple of years ago with Landon Sims, and just shut the door. Now, those guys aren't as dominant as Sims was in terms of just, they're striking out 40-something% of guys, but they got the job done one way or the other. And so that's where I like A&M a little better. I just like the composition of their top arms.
Well, Mississippi State, either the 2019 team that went to the World Series, and you remember Auburn had them down 4-1 in the ninth, and the famous throw from third
Eduardo
over
Julian
first.
Couldn't field a grounder.
Yeah. Oh man, that was. But was that the State team that their top 6 or 7 pitchers were all injured and they still made it to the World Series? Because it wasn't. I don't think it was 21, but that was just a miraculous job of coming through. But on the flip side, look at Auburn this year. I saw in the portal, have 7 or 8 guys I think are going into the portal. Ike Irish is back, but again, it's pitching. You go from you're in the World Series in 19, in 20 we don't have it because of the virus lockdowns. 21 not good. 22 Auburn's back in the World Series. 23 they go to a regional. They don't get out of the regional. What's Butch Thompson need to do besides get 7 or 8 pitchers, and where are they?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think back. I think the 2018 Mississippi State team was the one that was a little bit of a mess on the mound. That's the one that beat Vanderbilt to super. Neither team was really supposed to be that far, and then somebody had to win in a series. I think that went to extra innings in Game 3. Because 2019, I remember being out there, and I'm pretty sure. Excuse me. I saw Ethan Small pitch, and he would have been their top arm, and he would have been. He's pitched with the Brewers. He's been in the bigs. I think he's in the bigs with somebody now. So I think it was 18. But Auburn in particular, it feels like, you've had Casey Mize, you had the kid. Oh, I guess
Tanner Burns.
Tanner Burns was the one I was trying to remember.
Stud,
was a stud. I don't think he's made the majors yet. Had some issues with health. But Auburn's pitching this year was just kind of a mess. Gonzalez never got back and healthy. He was an ace 2 years ago, just shut everybody down. Not a dominant guy, but you couldn't hit the ball hard off him. And when you just got a mishmash of guys and they all run together and they've all got 6 ERAs, that's hard to win in the league.
It really is. And one more baseball question, then I want to talk a little football. But the SEC, now you're bringing in Oklahoma and Texas. Do they really play a different brand of baseball like they do on the West Coast? Do they play that much different a brand in the Big 12 versus the SEC, or is it very similar?
Well, to be honest, I've got a limited amount of time, and I invest pretty much all of it in watching the SEC.
Yeah, I got you.
I do catch. So all that to say, I don't like to speak to things I don't know about. Now, I did see Texas this year, and it felt like that was not your father's Augie Garrido team where they bunt and run and do kinds of stuff. They could hit some bombs. They didn't quite have the top end pitching that they've had before. But I feel like last I've seen of them, it had shifted a little bit. Oklahoma, I saw they got run out of their own regional by Connecticut, which was unexpected. And that's a program that's just been kind of hit and miss. Their facilities haven't been as good. Maybe getting to the final in Omaha 2 years ago has raised the awareness there. I don't know yet. Now ask me in a year. I don't know everything you need to know about Oklahoma baseball, but that one I'm just a little short on knowledge.
Well, no, but that's smart. Like me, if I don't know something, I'm going to tell you. All right, Thursday, I'm at Barnes and Nobles. They're coming out. This is Lindy's,
right.
And also found this one. It's football time in Tennessee. I think Athlons is out. It's usually out Memorial Day weekend. So, but I hadn't seen it yet. But I had somebody send me a quote from one of those anonymous coaches on another team in the league. So it's somewhere. But looking at this top 10 that they have in here: Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, Ole Miss, Michigan, Alabama, Notre Dame, Missouri, and Florida State. That gets people talking, if anything.
Sure.
You like that?
I guess again, I kind of wait for the dust to settle on the portal and know what everybody's roster is before my time right now has gone into baseball right after it went into basketball.
Yeah.
And so to me, spending a lot of time this summer on football was just I'm not going to say a waste of time, but why try to commit rosters to memory that the second you do it, the parts have changed again. Again, ask me in 2 months and I'll have a definite opinion. I have like ESPN put out a preliminary top 25. A lot of the teams in the top 10, sound the same. I think Georgia's going to be number one by some people. I've seen Missouri and Ole Miss in top 10s. And I mean, at this point, you got two coaches there that have just mastered the portal and have got their systems in, have got ideal NIL situations. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, Charlie Condon was, Matt Dean said on the show Thursday that he was coming to Rhodes College in Memphis as a football guy and walked on at Georgia. And that happens. That doesn't happen in football very often, but it can in baseball. So, you look at, and what I think too is happening, Todd Helton being inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame after Frank Thomas, that's it. Now, Frank was the first one, but you're going to see a whole lot more of these guys coming through. But the product, the college baseball and the Women's College World Series, I mean, that's SEC heavy. And Florida trounced Oklahoma yesterday, 9-3. That is kind of like, chomp, but that blew people's minds. But Oklahoma has won, 3 straight national Women's College World Series national championships. So this league is going to get better. And if you're not investing, you're falling behind.
Yeah. I mean, it's the pace. College sports has moved. I don't know. Feel like it's moved 100 years in the last 5 alone.
Yeah, it has. And I read an article in this Lindy's Sports college football 24 preview. It's their national preview. It's not their SEC preview yet. But Dennis Dodd echoes what I feel. And I was texting with him yesterday. He may be on the show with us tomorrow or Thursday. But he said, in spite of all the stuff going on, and we talk about it all the time, the interest, the popularity, ticket demand, it's higher than ever. I mean, I'm with Tony Barnhart. Not even the adults can screw it up. David Whitley, the Gainesville Sun, said on his show last week, the Buddy Martin show I was on with him, he said, I think it's pretty much idiot proof. We love the game, and we love once you start playing the games, all that noise from the outside tends to slow down, doesn't it? I think it does.
I see college sports a lot like I have historically seen baseball, where it is right now. And here's what I mean by that. You go back to any era of baseball and you find something you just want to turn your nose up at. You go back to the 1800s, early 1900s, surely in 1919 when the World Series was fixed, you had rampant fixing issues with baseball. You get beyond that. They clean the game up. They decide they're not going to let blacks play for a long time. I mean, there were many trial balloons floated before Jackie Robinson, but you had a bunch of people that didn't have the courage to do the right thing because of the public pressure, which I see some commonalities with college sports there. Yeah. You go through. You had the owners had an iron fist on the game for 100 years. You had free agency, and owners said it's going to kill the game. Somebody made $100,000, I think, in the 70s or the 60s for the first time, and people lost their minds. And then that became $1 million in the late 70s, and we're going to break the game economically. Well, guess what? Franchises sell for dozens of times what they sold for 30 or 40 years ago. Players are richer than ever. The game is financially healthier than ever. You had player strikes after that, a couple of them that couldn't kill it, damage it for a while. Then you had the McGuire Sosa thing in the 90s, which was completely fraudulent, and you've screwed up the Hall of Fame. I mean, here's my point. You had times where baseball has screwed up historically everything at every turn. Now I think Rob Manfred, who I'm not crazy about, has gotten some stuff right with pace of play, but baseball, in spite of all the stupid decisions, has continued to prosper and grow and get more financially profitable.
Yeah,
I think college sports is the same thing. That doesn't mean that the decisions underneath and the leadership aren't mind-boggling and just stupid and smack of a lack of courage and leadership at times, but the product is still great. People still tune in spite of all the stuff that's wrong with it. And we could do a day of all the stuff that's wrong with college sports. And I see a lot of parallels there.
You're right. And you look at the number of times historically when we've had decisions of putting games on TV in the 50s, the CFA decision in '84 to show basically every game on some form, ESPN Plus, streaming, whatever. And every time we overcome it. And again, that's what I talk about every day is the free market. But that's what it is. And we love the game. And in the off season, it's human nature to worry a lot. But worry, it merely is the absence of faith. That's what worrying is. And faith in the system, faith in the free market. And if you want to bet against the people of America, do it at your own peril. I'm not. I'm going to bet on the fans, and we'll get through all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I go back and I look at, like, it just amazes me that something like the SEC network took so long to form. Yeah. I mean, 20 years ago, we were still, if you wanted to know what was going on with a certain SEC on SEC football game, you had to listen on the radio.
Yeah.
You couldn't find some of those things on TV.
You're right.
And look at how that has grown everything. That seems like an answer that was right out there in front of everybody, that a rock that never got overturned. So I think that's an example of leadership that lacked vision, and left millions of dollars on the table, but in the end, the game was overcome.
Yeah, and Chris, I know you got to be on another show at 8:30. Let people know how they can follow you, keep up with all your great content. We'll do it again next week, and as always, we appreciate your time and also all your hard work.
Well, thank you. Go to YouTube, search Southeastern 14. You will find us there. We cover SEC football, baseball, basketball at a 30,000-foot level. If you want to get a good read on what's going on at the conference, I think you will like what we do.
Well, I don't think there's any question. We love it, man. It's the Southeastern 14, and you're gonna unveil on this show when it becomes the Southeastern, and those other guys.
16.
Sure, why not?
All right,
We're
take
gonna
care,
be the
man.
Ochos.
God bless you, man. I love this guy. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Hey, Brenden, you know what's cool?
My shirt.
Yeah, that's a good looking shirt. But Chris is a very pensive guy, and he's studying 14, about to be 16. But he's right about he can give you the view, but he knows more than he wants to admit about all these schools. It's like we do, just because we do a ton of research. I mean, the preparation for every show that we do it's intense, and I know what you're doing, what I'm doing, and you know what? So what a wild deal. Rodney Orr saying got major issue going on. He'll try to join us as soon as he can, but Brenden,
I wanted to talk, and I know Chris was short, so I wanted to get as much out of Chris as we could, because I know he was taking off. Excuse me. But curiously enough, with talking about baseball, and then, sort of like, I always wonder, I went to part of the game last night, and, it's like, you always wonder, because I played baseball forever. You always wonder about aluminum bats, right? You always wonder about, talk to Dad about that for a while, Buddy Martin, about, it's cheaper, you go through wooden bats like crazy. Schools can't keep up with it, that kind of stuff. But, when you start looking at these, the correlation of what kind of athletes going to be playing, especially, at that level in the SEC, it's as good as any minor league ball that you're going to go watch at a park or whatever. And in some instances, it's even better because you're getting to watch superstars before their time. So, going out, I'm always taken back by that whole thing where it's just like, let's make the game a little bit more closer to what they're going into as far as let's figure out a way to get. You tell me we can't figure out a way to get wooden bats and all that kind of stuff. I think that's ridiculous.
Well, we'll figure it out. I mean, but he's right, and if Rodney's running way behind. Yancey had an issue, kind of one of these wild days that you have every now and then. Yeah, hey, push through and execute. This is a time when you need a guy like Buddy Martin.
Oh yeah, I'm already talking to Buddy. I'm talking to him right now.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm seeing going on with the game of college football, basketball, baseball. The fans are worrying, but again, once you start playing the games, it's fun, and that's what we're really. At the end of the day, all we want to do is see the game, the product on the field. It's like people that say, I'm not voting for this guy, he's a jerk. You don't have to be friends with him. Question, all you're concerned with is, can this person, this man, this woman get the job done? And you look at sports, what is going on? We want, as fans, these players in college to love the school that they are playing for, where they're enrolled, as much as we do. That's all we ask. And if they're going to make money and they love it like we do, that's fine. But if they're just getting a big bag of money, and I hate Deion, I've got to get my bag. I'm so sick of that. I really am. And
we're seeing that play out. So
yeah, and it's happening. His program is toxic. He got a lot of people to watch Colorado last year, but
it was such a flash in the pan. Look. I've been around.
You told me about Boulder.
I told you about that before, and I said, look, don't buy into any of this crap. I said, and I told Buddy this too, and he said, oh no, he's in, and he's going to come on, by the way. But I said, look, I just. I've seen that program for too long. And we're talking from the McCartney era. So I've been watching that program for a long time.
Yeah.
So I know from 30 plus years living in Colorado, that program was so dead. It was so dead as a doornail that, he came in and could show a little flash in the pan, because anything at that point was going to, gave it a heartbeat. And I think it was just such a quick fix with this Louis, and I've got my Louis, and I'm going to come be big time and all this stuff. And I've seen all these articles recently, especially about how now they're talking about he's going to come back to the South, and Florida wants it. Look, Florida doesn't want him to be head coach. There's no way.
I wouldn't hire him.
I
tell you what I don't like. Look, I understand you got to go in there and get the roster cleaned up, but you're dealing with people. And you got to have people skills. And what I gather, and I said this on the show last year, he got a lot of eyeballs to turn toward Boulder and Pac-12 football, and we all gave him credit for that. But behind the scenes, under the surface, how many in-home visits has he made? And I've said this. This was my takeaway from last year. All I see is Deion Sanders. It's all about his two sons and Travis Hunter. Because you can't name another player on that team. And they started off, they won at TCU early. Didn't they win that first game?
Yeah.
And that made everybody go crazy. You got to invest in people. And they've got to know that you care more about them than you care about yourself or your son. What I mean is, I don't get the impression that he is a team first guy. He's all about himself and getting my bag and all. No, look,
he was controversial when he played the way he played, before. And here's Buddy Martin, and he's a Deion guy.
All about himself.
Buddy Martin.
Yeah, Buddy. Good morning.
Morning, gentlemen.
Hey, and I listened to a lot of veteran sports writers who said they had interviewed Deion in college, and they said what he was like then. They said he hadn't changed. And I mean, you talk to people in Dallas that had to deal with him, the way he acted to Tim McCarver in the locker room, throwing champagne all over him. And I mean, it's all karma is a switch. And you know what I'm talking about. It'll come back and bite you. You lie to people, you screw people over, it's going to come back and get you. Let's get back down into the SEC where Buddy Martin is. And Buddy, looking around at, I read, Lindy's College Football Magazine is out. I mean, it's at Barnes and Nobles. That's the national preview. Their top 10 is Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, Ole Miss, Michigan, Alabama, Notre Dame, Missouri, and Florida State. I mean, any team out there, and Ole Miss is the one everybody's like buying stock in. Everybody likes Ole Miss. But what's different right now on June 4th, heading into this college football season, compared to every other college football season we've witnessed up to this point? With anything?
I'm sorry, guys. We're a softball and baseball school.
And gymnastics. Well,
Not yet. But right now, as of yesterday, we're softball and baseball. Tremendous day for Gator fans yesterday watching their baseball team come back from the living dead. And now going to Clemson to play. They're just 2 games away from it, guys. Kevin O'Sullivan, some people were talking about, hey, he needs to go, leave, whatever. He's leaving, all right. He's going to Clemson where he used to coach, and he's taking his team up there for the regional. And these guys are suddenly stroking the ball and pitching good.
Yeah.
And just another indication, excuse me, of how fast things can change.
Yeah.
It's really fast. You can talk about a team today, tomorrow. Yeah. There are more Cinderella stories in softball and baseball from Florida than there are anything else right now. They've had some tremendous things happen in recently. The catch yesterday made by their center fielder to save a run. And then Falby, she comes back and hits an inside the park home run, breaks an 0 for 18 slump, hits the inside the park home run. Florida beats Oklahoma, winner of 7 national championships. Patty Gaston, the coach, who was 20-0 in the last 20 postseason games, and 52-0 against her former assistants, of which, as far as Tim Walton were one, got beat yesterday. And now they're going back at it again at 2 o'clock today. I just love this. I watched more television the last 3 days. And I loved watching the women's softball. Wow, it was fun to watch. And the men's baseball had a tremendous performance by Brenden Neely, who suddenly became, Sandy Koufax or something out of nowhere. And Kevin O'Sullivan said it right. He said, to have a chance in the postseason in baseball, you have to have these guys come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right? Florida had a guy come out of nowhere. He wasn't off the bench 6 games ago, was the MVP of the tournament. He hit 3 doubles the other day and a home run. I mean, this is the great things about these overnight stars that we haven't heard their name. All of a sudden, they're making the headlines. And Brenden is right. The brand of baseball in SEC is really good. I mean, really good. It could be comparable to anything AAA and down in baseball. And it's fun to watch them come out of nowhere and suddenly Brenden Neely made himself a bunch of money. He came in off the bench and out of the pen in the 4th inning, and Florida was about to look like get their brains beat out. And he pitched 11 strikeouts. 11 strikeouts he had, and shut him down. And Florida won that game 5-2. Now they're going to Clemson, where as I said, Sully used to coach. So there's a lot of good stories out there. My point, going back, things can change so fast. So fast, it's hard to know. I don't agree with you on Deion. I don't know what's going to happen. I heard a very smart guy yesterday, Joel Klatt from Fox, who, by the way, is not doing the games. This is too bad because he was really good at it. He got demoted because they got their star. So Joel Klatt said, do not sleep on Deion Sanders. He said, if Shedeur Sanders gets his act together, look for them to win 8 or 9 games this year. They're going to be a team to reckon with. People who think Deion is dead don't get it, don't understand the transformational thing that's taking place. He said, "Believe me, I'm there. I've been there. I've talked to him." He said it's still going to happen to some degree. Now, what happens after this year? But so it's almost like you have to be. If you're a half a beat behind anything, you can be completely wrong. I made a statement 14 games ago, Florida, my broadcast partner, Shane Matthews. We said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, I'm really concerned about the status of the baseball team and the softball team." And he said, "Why? They're iconic and whatever, and they're elite." And I said, "Well, okay, well, maybe they are, maybe they have been. How long does that elite tag last before you start thinking, well, they got swept by Florida State, or how are things trending?" And Rob, this is the business we're in, and Brenden, we're talking about trending. What is trending? Yeah. And you can be a half a beat behind and be 10 miles behind. And so there's things going on that we don't know about. And I hear these national reporters coming on talking about Florida that I do know a little bit about. And they just haven't been watching what's going on in Florida and Gainesville right now. So there's a lot going on. And so you got to keep up. It's hard for old guys like me. So many things happening. Great week for softball and baseball. Can't wait. And, of course, the football season rolling around now. Florida is looking pretty good right now in football.
Well, you talk about Deion, and again, I mean, I'm talking about Colorado, the culture out there. The players I don't think there's a lot of trust among those players. That's an issue of him, but he lost a lot of his assistants after 1 year. But again, we're focusing on the SEC, but I couldn't imagine him coming to the South. Ask Florida State people what they think about him. It's just weird. I don't dislike the guy, but I talked to a lot of smart Florida State people, and they just don't like him, and it's because of a lot of things that he's done. And I don't like.
Sorry, Rob. I don't like the way sort of where he left. Was it Jackson and
Jackson State? Yeah.
State. I kind of always look at like the way somebody exits their last situation. There was a little bit of controversy in there. I don't know if he's such a bad coach. I just think that he wasn't ready for this. I think this stage. I think he needed a little bit more time to marinate and sort of like go through the process. I think he's going to have success at that level at Jackson State. I think that makes sense. You're going to attract that that mid-range athlete probably with a lot of that rhetoric. But I think what we've seen now is that and also a telltale sign of I think a program in trouble is the exodus of his superstars and people. He's having a hard time getting guys in there. So I don't know. I mean, I think people or even players can look past that sometimes and say, well, I'm going to look past some of the bling and this, that, the other thing. And some of the guys that, they all talk on Twitter and everything else. I don't know if they feel like they can win there, or if they're going to be successful there, and if they're going to be able to showcase their talents there. And then like Rob and I were talking about, buddy, is that Boulder's not a football town. CU's not it's really not though. Look, they had a couple of big successes early, but that's a flash in the pan. I mean, they're not going to sustain that. That's not going to be like, packing it in for McNeese State at, 88,000 large. That's not going to happen there consistently. And I think that's why I think, Deion, the whole thing is just starting to fizzle out. And I know Buddy and I have disagreed from the beginning. I just don't buy into it.
Well, I think what makes the college football program work is that the fans and the coach and the coaching staff and the players are all connected. They're all on the same page. They love one another. And that's where you're going to lose your fans if they look at the team and they're like, we don't even know who these guys are. And they're only here because they got a bunch of money. And that's one of the things that you look at a locker room like Texas A&M under Jimbo. They had a bunch of hired guns out there, just, guys that had been brought in for a lot of money. And look, A&M is a great academic school. Their fans are unbelievable. They are the they're some of the most passionate fans in all of college football. All I'm seeing, though, when you look, buddy, at Texas A&M, they have all the money. As Fran says, only God and the Longhorns have more money than Texas A&M. But you've got to have the right mix of the right people who are committed and believe that, that there's something bigger than just them. And I think that look in the SEC. You look in the state of Arkansas. It's one team, one state. That's their motto. And you look in Mississippi. You've got that rivalry, but that makes both teams work harder. When you're in Florida, you've got Florida State to deal with. You've got Miami. Now you got USF. Now you got UCF with Gus there. And I'm looking at what UCF is doing in recruiting. They're getting a lot of kids, a lot of really good prospects to come there. And look what Georgia's doing. Georgia Tech's got to get an athletic director who understands how important college football is. But wherever you are, you better have the right mix of people, buddy. Money alone can't fix all these problems.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, look, we're trying to figure this whole thing out. It's a moving target. We're not sure what to expect or what's right or what's good or we're being asked to accept things we don't really believe in. But that's the game. And remember this, as much as we like to think as purists that the game is the greatest thing and it needs to be protected and all that sort of stuff, fans are fans.
Yeah.
You win, they're going to follow you. All the things they said about you go away.
Yeah, that's true.
Fine. You're winning and you're getting recruits and you're making money. All is forgiven. We love you. And that's the game that we're in right now. So it's really hard to get any intrinsic value when it's what you and I go for, of course.
Yeah.
We want this to be, I don't know what this is. What is this Rumble?
Yeah, that's one of my sponsors. How you fight is how you live. Rumble Boxing Gym.
I thought it said Bumble. It's Bumble.
How you fight is how you live. Rumble Boxing.
Well, I did something to make it go. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. All right. So my point is that what's your buy-in? What are you here for? What do you accept? What do you want? Look, I'm excited about the future of the Super League. That I wrote a column about this a couple of days ago. This SEC is just incredible. I looked at the new FBI's list of toughest schedules last night.
Yes.
And it's, I think 9 of the 10 are of SEC, Florida being the number one hardest schedule. And then what's funny about it is they're on each other's schedule.
Mm-hmm.
That makes their schedule harder.
Yes.
But that's all relative. Listen, when Auburn under Pat Dye had some tough years, well, his schedule was pretty tough too. And Big Ray is back when his team was not as good. They were underdogs a lot. His schedule was really tough. Your schedule is relative. It is what it is. The schedule, even when it's tough and tougher than what you like, is an opportunity to make a statement. Because if you do win, Billy Napier wins 8 games, he might be coach of the year. So it's opportunity. You hear these people say, well, this is why we came here. Well, this is why you came to Florida to play these kind of games. Fans were tired of the cream puff games, complaining about getting the directional schools there. Well, they don't have them now. And guess what? It's a tough schedule, but you can't have it both ways. So who knows? It's so uncertain what will happen in this league. I just had this thought about it when I wrote this column. Number one, get used to it. Texas is going to take credit for everything. Their AD was already on from down here in Destin.
I saw that.
Destin saying that forget about the Iron Bowl and the Florida Georgia game. It's about the Red River rivalry. Hello, I don't think so. It's a fine route. We've not been to it. Don't talk sparking. Don't start talking smack on my doorstep before you get in my house. You're not even a member yet of this conference, and don't disrespect it like that. So we're going to have some fun with that, but it is going to make it really, really good for fans. Games will be great, and competition will be great. And let's face it, you talk about the Iron Bowl, you talk about Florida Georgia, you talk about Texas. is the years they have the best teams when their games are really great. Back in the day when they had Texas, Arkansas, and stuff like that.
Correct.
So it depends on the rise and fall of the fortunes, of what's going on. But it's going to be an exciting time, and I've had a wonderful time with watching softball and baseball. I can't wait to watch football.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you look, I saw Chris Del Conte, the athletic director at Texas, and Joe Castiglione at Oklahoma. They were on Paul Feinbaum's show last week from Destin.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, and I was watching that. And Feinbaum said, man, thank you. You have just given me so much. He goes, thank you. Because, and Mitch Davis pointed it out yesterday. He said his comment was the Red River Shootout, OU Texas is maybe the 10th best rivalry in the SEC. And I said, well, I'd put it up there. But then again, you're right. There's so many great rivalries already here. And I'm looking forward to going to SEC Media Days, July 15th through the 18th in Dallas.
Yeah, you're going to be my guys. All my guys and you are going to team up there. That's great.
We're going to have fun. And how much of it will be about? It's going to be fun. Texas welcomes the SEC, and they hate Texas A&M, but there is respect between Texas and OU, and it's a different dynamic, and we need to do a podcast on SECU on Oklahoma. Going to get that set up. Yeah. But buddy, I'm with you. The fans just love the games. They love to see them played. And I want to say thanks to all of our sponsors like Hewlett and Dunn, Boot and Clothing Company on the Historic Square in Collierville, Tennessee, open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. They have a 25% off all boots sale through June 16th, okay? Keep that in mind. HewlettandDunn.com. They deliver anywhere. The Vitamin Shop, Oxford and Olive Branch, Mississippi, open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sundays, 10:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. The people that work there are squared away. They know what they're doing. They will get you the right vitamins, supplements, nutrients that match your body. They really are the best at what they do, the Vitamin Shop. And also, got to say this too, man, that Rumble Boxing, they do corporate training, all kinds of different deals if you're a student, whatever, but rumbleboxinggym.com in Midtown Memphis, 1835 Union Avenue. All of our sponsors, like Tom Martin's Body Shop, Matei's Garage, they are the best. You can find them all on our website at sidelines.live. The AD from Texas thinks they're going to waltz into the SEC and automatically start winning and take over the league. LOL. That ain't going to happen. And, buddy, I think it's good. Has there ever been more fun stuff? Jackie Sherrill was on the show Friday, and he said, it's all about eyeballs. Don't forget that. It's eyeballs. College football brings in 85% of the TV money that's paid to colleges. 85% at least. Is that – I think he's right.
Well, that's true, but don't forget things are changing. The story going on in women's basketball right now with Caitlin Clark is absolutely amazing. If you look at her accomplishments and what she's done, you know what, eyeballs. The WNBA went from 0 to 100 in a hurry.
Yeah.
And the bizarre thing has happened with the incident she had this past week. And America got real mad in a hurry. These are the most watched games in sports right now. Caitlin Clark has brought the eyeballs with her.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't the NBA realize, WNBA, hey, she's like Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. Mm-hmm. She brings us people and brings us money. And some of the salaries that the women are making, 100,000, are going to be $500,000 because of it. And then she gets cheap shotted and all that stuff that one of those paid. I won't get into it now because it's been all over TV. But the point is that you can take a position on this real easy. You can take a position of, a race if you want to, which I don't think it should be, but that's how it will be played by some. You can take a lot of positions, but I'd say it's a new brand of stupidity when you got the golden goose there and you're about to chop her head off.
Yeah, correct.
Now I read today that, believe this or not, that the WNBA is looking at a potential suspension of Caitlin Clark because she had so many technical fouls in 11 games. What are they thinking over there? My gosh, they got something handed to them. They better protect the franchise. This girl has brought more eyeballs. I know more. My wife never watches any kind of basketball. She absolutely loves Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
She'll watch her anytime. And she's just one of many. The marginal fans, it's like when Tiger came to golf. Tiger brought a brand new element. John Daly came to golf, brought a brand new element. When you bring a new element into your game, now you're talking about unbelievable marketing potential. I guess where I'm going with this is that you want to protect the franchise. The SEC's got a great thing going. They're set for a long time. But, boy, when you get an opportunity to showcase someone like Caitlin Clark, do not mess around. Give her the floor.
No, I agree with you. And you look at what different players in college football, the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, he brings a lot of eyeballs to the TV. Caitlin Clark certainly is changing everything in terms of salaries for the WNBA and all like that. I think that what a lot of people are, they're looking at Caitlin Clark. She didn't win a national championship. She played for a couple of them, but she is the most prolific scorer ever, and she's really good. And she is she's very popular. She's the All-American girl, whatever. You know what? It's a tough game. I mean, it's going to be tough, but we'll see how this plays out. But she's bringing money to the WNBA. The men they watch the NBA, but not in numbers like the WNBA. But it's a lot more men, I bet, watching WNBA right now than women. I'll make that bet. I just think men are bigger sports fans. Now, women go to the games with their boyfriends and husbands and dates all the time, but I think men are just bigger sports fans, and I bet you they are a big percentage, a majority.
We can talk about this on my show tonight. You're going to be on with me. Yeah. It's not just the games. Yeah. It's the residuals. Like last night, I happened to be watching the baseball game. Boy, some good baseball play. I really am. And baseball and softball both. I watched so much baseball and softball this past weekend, and I will watch it again, especially today at 2 o'clock when Florida tries to get to winning softball again against mighty OSU. But there's other things, like accidentally there were channels left on last night on ESPN. They had a feature with some of the female stars in basketball, how they got there. Mm-hmm. And they went there and they told the story of their recruiting. And Caitlin Clark was one of them. It was fascinating. Yeah. The story, you forget, she was going to Notre Dame. She basically accepted.
She's Catholic, yeah.
Yeah, she was going, but then she had to tell her back out and say she stayed home. What was a wonderful love story with the Iowa fans.
Yeah, it is.
Those are the kind of stories that you got to get. You got to listen to, because that's what's.
I agree with you. Look, we've run out of time, but I mean, buddy, you nailed it. Those are the stories you better be paying attention to. That's why great sports writers matter. Hey, great show today, folks. We're the most blessed country in the history of the world. Tell your friends, family, friends, and neighbors about Sidelines, SEC Sidelines Sports Network, SECU, and I'll be on the Buddy Martin Show tonight, which you can watch Monday through Thursday. Have a great one, folks. We're out of here. See you in the morning.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shoppe health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.